onto the sunset safari, so let us go across so that Noel can bid you a very good afternoon.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the portion of the show where myself and James Hendry will be joining all of you here in South Africa in the Sabi Sands on Djuma and Chitwa. My name is Noel, and on camera we have Jean-Dre. Thumbs up from Jean-Dre. And welcome as well to Diamond Springs Parkway and Trentwood Elementaries. I believe it's your first time with us, so I hope you enjoy. Now, I'm on the hunt for a female leopard and her tiny little baby. And today, so she's probably still resting, but I'm driving very slowly up and down, just trying to see if we can get a view. I found some very fresh leopard poo from her, so that means that she's around. Now we just have to see if we can actually see her. Now this female leopard has a name. Her name is Tundi, and her cub is just over 3 months now. So still a small cub, still very much needing her mom. Now don't forget everybody, we are live and interactive. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat. Or kiddos, just send through those questions with your teachers and we will answer them live for you on camera. So you can ask anything that you would like to ask. It can be about the leopard that I'm looking for. It can be about where I am and maybe where Jamie is up in Kenya, which is very different. Just whatever you feel like asking about, and we love to chat with you. Now I'm just going to stop just here and show you the area. Wendy, you're asking if wild dogs can be raised in captivity. So we have a species, for those of you that might not know, we have a species called African wild dog, also known as African painted wolf. They're not related to domesticated dogs. They have a relation to wolves, but it's about 3 million years ago. Similar to a domesticated dog, but much more pretty in color. And we do get them here on the property. Wendy, can they be raised in captivity? Wendy, anything can be raised in captivity, but it's not necessarily the best thing for a wild animal, if that makes sense. Basically, anything that's in the wild should probably stay in the wild. Wild dogs are very cute, but they're pack animals, and they need other species from their pack to survive. They also smell quite bad, Wendy, so I don't know if I would want a wild dog either as a pet, but I do know that there are some zoos that do one. Amy, good question. You'd like to know if big cats have fur balls? Most definitely. I watched a male lion busy eating a giraffe, and so sometimes to get into the meat, they've got to lick a bit off, and then they pull, and then they chew with their side teeth. And this one not only got fur, but it also got cartilage around from the shoulder blade area from the giraffe, and they sat there for a good half hour just going and doing the normal in your house cat. Now, this female leopard that we're looking for is somewhere just in here. But because it is nice and warm, she's probably found a little shady spot. And there's certain places where I can drive and certain places where I can't. And just down into that dip is not a place where I can drive at the moment. Zamir, very good question. Species like impala, duiker, kudu, baby warthog, but I've also seen male leopards with big giraffes, sort of newborn to about a year-old giraffe, so not fully grown but quite big. And I've seen there's differences. It depends on the size of the. Now, I could hear a francolin, which is a type of bird, kind of like a partridge, and he was busy alarm calling a little bit over the side. It could be because of a leopard, or it could be because of a bird of prey. What I'm going to do is we're just going to slowly drive, and we're going to look. Jean-Dre is very tall, and also where Jean-Dre sits is a little bit higher than where I sit. So we're both going to have a look and see if we can peer into this gully. If we don't get anything right now, we'll move on to something else and then come back when it's a little bit cooler. Sterling, good question. You'd like to know how far leopards go in a day. Sterling, it depends if they're hungry or not. So if the leopard's hungry, it's going to look inside of its territory as well as possibly its home range. Depending. Sometimes if this mama is full, she won't go anywhere, and if she's near her kill, she's not going to go too far. So every day is different. It would be like us. Let's say we've just done our grocery shopping, we have all the food we need in our house, and it's the weekend, we might grocery shop a restaurant to go and eat, similar to that. Okay, now I feel as if Madam Tundi, what we're going to do is we are going to go to a large dam that's not far from here. That's a very good plan. A leopard named Hasana. He's about 2 years old and he likes the dam we're going to head to now, as well as his father, Tingana, who's also the father of this little cub that we're looking for with its mum. And what else? There was buffalo in this area yesterday, so we might pick up on them. And we'll just have to wait and see. There'll also probably be lots of birds by the dam. And maybe something like impala or waterbuck, both antelope species, or maybe a warthog. Is there anything that you all would really like to see? If you had a wish list, not that I can guarantee anything, but if you had a wish list, what would your wish list include to see on our game drive today? Don't forget to send that through to your teacher, and I would love to hear what all of you are super keen to hopefully find. Sorry about that. Up in Kenya, which is 1,600 miles away from where I am now, north and east, and a different part of Africa. And he has a very large mammal species he'd like to show you. So let's head on up to him.
Hi guys, I hope you're excited for your school drive. I'm excited to have you on drive with us. Now remember, send your questions through to me, give them to your teacher. I'd love to talk to you about elephants, because that's what we're looking at now. And we've got a lot of elephants around a swampy, marshy area, and then eating lots of nice green grass. Oh, look, there's a little greeting ceremony going on over there. There's more elephants coming out of the forest next to us. And, oh, you can hear them trumpeting. So there we go, that's where they're coming out of the forest, coming out into the open. Now this is where elephants have their meetings, and they come see friends they haven't seen in a long time and have a chat and have a nice mud bath. Here we go. And you can see that one at the back there lifting up its trunk. It's smelling, it's probably trying to smell us at the moment, just trying to check what we are. So there we go, and look at it, like popping it up so you can get a good whiff. Isn't this wonderful? There's a little one. Okay, let's get a bit closer. So elephants live in family groups where you've got maybe a mom and a couple of aunties and all their cousins and children all together. And the big daddy elephants normally live by themselves, and they come in and out and move between the different family groups. So one daddy elephant can have lots of different families, but the females will always stay together. So it's very important when you drive around elephants to drive very slowly. You don't want to make a lot of noise or make a lot of noise with your car, because that might upset them. Sorry, I didn't catch that name there, Faith, but someone was asking, what do elephants like to eat? Zakwan was asking what elephants like to eat the most. Zakwan, in the Maasai Mara, the elephants like to eat grass the most. So they love to eat grass, and you can see nice green fresh grass that's growing in the swamp that they're eating there. Now, in different parts of Africa, they will eat different things, but mostly 80% of an elephant's diet in the Mara is made up of grass and 20% of trees and bushes and other things. Now, where you were with Noel back in South Africa, it's a bit different. So during the rainy season, our summer months, the elephants will eat 80% grass and 20% trees and shrubs. But in the dry season in South Africa, during our winter we don't get any snow. It doesn't get cold. Well, it gets cold, but not nearly as cold as you get back there in America. The elephants will eat 80% trees and shrubs and only 20% grass, and that's because the grass dries. But here in Kenya, the elephants are lucky. They have nice green grass all year round. Hello, Wyatt. Wyatt would like to know, how much do elephants weigh? Well, female elephant, like the one we're looking at there, she weighs probably around 3,000 kilograms, so 3 tons. Big females can go up as far as 3.5 to 4,000 kilograms, but a really big elephant bull normally weighs around 6,000 kilograms, so about double the weight. But the biggest elephant ever recorded in terms of weight-wise weighed 10,000 kilograms, and he was from Angola, another country in Africa. Okay, well, I'm going to keep moving a little bit further. Let's go see what else we can find while we see what's happening around the swamp. Let's go across to Jamie, who's got some antelope to show you.
I've got lots of different kinds of antelope to show you, which is very, very exciting, because we can talk a little bit about the different shapes and sizes that antelope come in. So we get all kinds of different species, just like there are different species of deer where you come from. So before I go into that, let me just introduce myself, because the kids have just joined us. So let me give you a quick introduction, and it's not just a voice talking at you. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Adrian is on camera with me, but he's very shy, so you don't ever get to see Adrian. If you ask a really good question, remember, he might give you a thumbs up if he thinks it's a good question. So we're talking about antelope, and we've got 4 different types of antelope. So let's work our way around, and you can think of questions that you'd like to know about them. So there we go. There's 2 different types. The ones on the left are called Topi. It is a Topi antelope, and behind them and just a little bit to the right is a female waterbuck. You see how different she is? She's very, very fluffy and a slightly different color to the Topi. Now here's the interesting thing. Now there's the Topi over there on the left and the waterbuck on the right. Those are both female antelope. So in certain species of antelope, like the Topi, the one on the left, the females also have horns. Now horns are solid bone. Now, what you're looking at, they're not like antlers. They are in fact a solid bone. They do not shed or drop their horns, and the females use them to defend themselves, whereas the males will use them to fight with other males for the right to mate with a female. But some antelope, like the waterbuck, they actually live in quite thick vegetation usually, and they don't need to have horns because they hide away. So there's some other Topi. Now Valerie is wanting to know how long antelope live. Well, life is tough out here, so there's lots of different predators, and you're probably looking at, for most antelope, only around about 10 or so years. So they can potentially live right up to 20, sometimes even older, but it's very rare for an antelope to live that long in the wild because there's just so many predators. Once they start to get old, then they aren't as quick, they can't run away as quickly, perhaps they're not able to hear the predators as well, and as a result they get caught and eaten. So 10 years, maybe up to 20 years. Now I said that there were 4 different types of antelope here. I've shown you only 2. The other 2 types are in front of us. Now Caleb, while we look at the other types of antelope, there we go. There's a little Thompson's gazelle with the black stripe along its side, and behind it is an antelope that kind of looks similar but is a little bit bigger, and it is an impala, a herd of impala. Now Caleb, you want to know, do antelope jump? And if they can jump, how high can they jump? They can jump really, really well. And there are some types of antelope, we might even see them today, called an eland. An eland can jump up to 6 feet or over 6 feet from a standing start. So they don't even need to get a run up. They can jump up really high. Kudu also jump really high. There's lots of different antelope that can jump. Here's the amazing thing, is that antelope don't just jump because they need to. Sometimes they jump to show off. Oh, there's a warthog as well. How many of you spotted the warthog? Well done if you saw the warthog. It was moving in the long grass. I can't see it anymore, but there was another animal there. So, some antelope jump to show off. Now, impala, they do handstands. I bet you don't believe me, but I promise you they do. They do the strange rocking jump, and then they do a handstand, and they throw their legs right up over the tops of their heads, and it's basically to show off just how healthy they are. So they're healthy and strong and fit, and it's their way of displaying to other antelope as well as to predators. There is another type of antelope that you won't see because unfortunately we don't get here, called a springbuck. And a springbuck does something very special called pronking, and that is when they jump up really high, but they arch their backs and they pull their legs together. So they sort of make an arch as they jump, and it's really beautiful to see them all doing it at one time. So antelope can jump. They can also run really fast, up to or over 50 miles an hour sometimes. That's a bit of an exaggeration, 40 miles an hour. So they can run very fast and they can jump very high. They are naturally athletic. Now we've been fortunate enough to see a few antelope being born, and Jamia, no, they're not. They are not born with their eyes closed. You know, you can imagine, because an antelope has to give birth out here. They can't go to a hospital or a vet or anything like that. They give birth out in the open, in the wild, and you can imagine that a baby antelope with its eyes closed would be in really serious danger. Oh, there's some babies. Let's look at the baby Topi while we talk about baby antelope. Just curled up here on our left-hand side. So an antelope, actually a baby antelope, is born as soon as it comes out of its amniotic sac. Then its eyes open, it can hear a little bit, although it's still kind of groggy, and in about maybe 20 minutes at the most, the baby antelope actually starts to stand up, and within an hour it can run and walk and jump and keep up with its mother, because if it didn't, if they weren't able to do that, then they would be in serious danger from the different types of predator that we get out here. So a baby antelope is ready to go from the moment it's born, whereas something like a lion cub, now a lion cub is very small, very vulnerable, and the mom actually hides them away because their ears are still flat, their eyes are still closed, they are very, very tiny and defenseless. So the mom, instead of having them out in the open, she'll hide them away in a den site. Something like maybe even just some logs piled on top of each other would work. Now Logan, Because the baby antelope needs to be strong enough to run with the rest of the antelope, they're quite big when they are born, and their legs are quite long. And what that means, to answer your question, is that there's only one baby born at a time. So in really rare cases, there might be twins, but that's very, very unusual. Most of the time, almost all of the time, the antelope only has one baby. And some antelope can have a baby every single year. So their babies grow up and they're ready to mate again, and they have another baby almost immediately. It's quite incredible. So there's lots of different types of animals out here. You've seen elephants and antelope. Let's go across to Noel, who's got a different type of herbivore to show you, and this one is much, much bigger than these antelope.
Well, we managed to get a very brief glimpse of that female leopard, but she's moved into a very tricky area where we can't really get the vehicle. So we have now made it all the way to the dam, where you had some hippo and now some Egyptian geese. And here I am, sitting here with the hippo and the Egyptian geese. We're going to give her a little bit of time and see if she goes back into an area where we can view her. And while we're waiting for that to happen, let's give her maybe 20 minutes, we are going to talk about these hippos. So, what would you like to know about hippo? Hippos are pretty amazing. They are related to whales. They're in the same order, the order with the Morphia. And they spend most of their days inside of the water, and then they come out at night to graze. They are grazers, they eat grass. Every now and then they'll eat meat, but it's not the norm. They can see under the water and they can see above the water. They can also communicate under the water and also communicate above the water. They're a very interesting mammal. They're also related to dugongs and manatees. So I'm not sure if you have manatees in Virginia. I do know that you have manatees in Florida. And we get what's similar to a manatee, a dugong, especially in places like Mozambique. That's nice. The hippo's lifting up his head. Donika, very good question. You'd like to know how fast do hippos swim? They don't actually swim, sweetie. They walk or bounce on the bottom of the water. Now, that being said, that is their normal behavior. 99.9% of the times, that's what they're going to do. The only time I've ever heard of a hippo swimming was during a big flood that happened in another area in Zambia, and a friend of mine watched a hippo swimming sort of upstream, but it's not something they normally do. They have feet like a rhino or like an elephant, as opposed to fins like dugongs and whales. A group of hippo is called a pod or a raft of hippos. That's the collective noun. Zaquan, you'd like to know how do hippos protect their babies? A couple of ways. A hippo's jaw is very strong, was what I was trying to say. And it can lift about 170 degrees, 175 degrees, right about like that. And then its bite down is very strong, so it can defend that way. It will also chase off intruders, especially things like crocodiles. It'll sort of chase them away. And then when they're out of the water, then it's a little bit difficult, because something like spotted hyena or lions can definitely get very large hippo as well as small hippo. So their way of keeping their little ones safe from that is to run back into the water, into the deeper water. It doesn't always work, but it works often enough. Now you'll see, oops, just gone under, but you'll see they have a little bit of a pinkish tinge to their skin. Hippos secrete something very special like a sunscreen. Oh, Logan, you would like to know how much does an average hippo weigh? An average hippo weighs about 800 kilograms roughly. That would be a big male. So that would be, in pounds, we'll double that, about 1,600 pounds, roughly, off the top of my head. Female hippos can be a little bit smaller, but yeah, about there. Sometimes a little bit bigger as well, but we'll do that as our average. They're heavy. They're very heavy. But they're covered in fat, so because they're covered in this big layer of fat, it actually helps with being able to be in the water quite a bit. Far, far, far down at the end of the dam, there's a few hippos that are fighting. It might be a little bit too far for us to see. You can see the lodge there. That's Chitwa Chitwa Lodge. And we're just going to try and zoom in here. There we go. There's another pod of hippos, and they're having a bit of an interaction. You can see him wagging his tail. There they go. Wagging the tail. They're not happy with each other. You see that gape. All right. Now, Jamie. All right. We'll go to Jamie just now. This is actually coming out quite nice. We've got really amazing camera equipment, and our cameramen are very good as well. And sometimes, oh, there we go. Younger one's fighting. Sometimes we're able to see very clearly at the far end of the sky. Oh my goodness! And sometimes not. To me, this looks like some young males that are busy having a bit of a tussle at the end. That's what I would say. Look, look, look. And wagging that tail, showing displeasure. If they're larger males, the large males are very territorial, as are grown females. And so they'll wag their tail and sort of spread their tongue. There they go again. Hannah, you're curious to know, how do hippos keep their teeth clean? Well, hippos don't need to use a toothbrush like we do. I think that in general, oh yes, these hippos are really not okay with each other. The other possibility, sorry, it's quite far. The other possibility is that there's some females that are not happy with other females coming in, or possibly females that are not happy with some younger males moving in. I can see a baby there now coming up to a female, so I'm going to go with females and some younger males. Ooh, listen. The hippos are laughing at us. So Hannah, they don't really need to do too much. I mean, they're wild animals, and their teeth are the way that they are. Now, this female that's right here just had a tiny little baby that popped up next to her, so we might get lucky. It might pop up again now. They mate underwater, and they give birth underwater, and they nurse underwater. Sometimes they'll give birth right on the edge of the water, but a lot of it happens underneath. Jocelyn, you totally read my mind. So where I'm sitting right now in South Africa, and where the director is in Kenya, up where Jamie and Brent are. So there's a 10-second delay between our communications sometimes. So I'll say something, and then 10 seconds later, Faith, who's our director, hears it. So Jocelyn, you and I were reading each other's minds completely. So yeah, they have babies under the water, and they mate underwater. They also nurse underwater. They've got an udder at the back like a cow. I like it, Jocelyn. We'll keep reading each other's minds just now. All right, well, it looks like our hippo action has died down quite a bit. And I'm not seeing any elephants coming around quite yet. I think we might head back to where we briefly saw that female leopard and see if we can find her again. And then I think while I'm busy doing that, let's head on up to Jamie, who's in Kenya, who has elephants for you that I'm sure she would like to show you. She loves elephants. Hopefully there's some little babies playing for you.
I do love elephants, and I enjoy spending as much time as possible with them, and I'm glad that we can show them to you. Now, there is a cute little baby, a little one off to the right here, probably, I would say, maybe 3 years old, give or take, maybe a bit younger than that. But what's really interesting to me is that this female is all on her own with her baby. And that's quite unusual to see, because elephants form herds, and the females live in a breeding herd. So there'll be lots of different females, and then all of the babies playing together, and they live And they're all related to each other, so it's mothers and daughters and aunts and sisters. Now, I don't know why she's on her own like this. I don't know if perhaps her herd is somewhere where I can't see them, and maybe she got distracted by a really tasty piece of grass and they left her behind, and she's going to go and catch up with them. We do know that elephants can communicate over really long distances by creating a deep rumble, a brrrr sound, and that carries very far, and they've got very sensitive ears, so maybe she knows exactly where the rest of her herd is. Or there could be, it's very unlikely, but it could be that she doesn't have a herd, that perhaps she got separated when she was young and she grew up on her own. I don't know, it's impossible for me to tell, but I can tell you that I don't see any other elephants. It's very strange. James, you're wondering about whether or not elephants like peanuts. I think if you offered an elephant a peanut, or if it saw a peanut, but because you shouldn't feed wildlife, you must never ever feed wildlife, it's very bad for them. But I think that if an elephant were to find a peanut, it would probably eat them. But it's one of those strange things that movies and cartoons make it seem like elephants really love peanuts more than anything else, and that's actually not really true. I can tell you what they really love more than anything else, and that is fruit. They really like fruit, oranges especially. Oranges, mangoes, anything like that. Elephants love fruit. And in fact, there's even some cases where people were being naughty and they fed elephants, and elephants realized that they could actually break into people's cars and steal the fruit that the people had there to take as snacks when they went out on safari. How naughty is that? And that's why you must never feed wildlife, because it's dangerous. The animals learn to associate people with food. They think that whenever they see a person, that must mean that there's food around, and that can make them very dangerous. And it can also mean that they become quite aggressive, and it could actually end up that the animal has to be put down. How sad is that? So don't ever, ever, ever feed the wild animals. They can feed themselves. Lovely question from Taylor, who is looking at the elephant's tail and wondering why they wag their tails. The big reason is because it helps to keep flies away. So there's different types of flies out here that actually bite, and they bite really sore. It hurts. And the elephant has got very thick skin, but around its bottom and around between its back legs, those areas are very sensitive and the skin is not quite as thick. So by sweeping the tail backwards and forwards, it helps to keep the flies from landing around there. But an elephant's tail, how many of you have dogs at home? Now, you know when a dog wags its tail, it means that it's happy. Now, it's sort of similar to an elephant. When an elephant is waving its tail like this, doesn't necessarily mean that it's happy, but it does mean that it is relaxed. So you can actually look at an elephant's tail and you can tell what mood it's in. When an elephant gets really frightened or angry or for whatever's in a bad mood for whatever reason, its tail gets really stiff and they hold it away from their bodies, so kind of at an angle. And that's how you can tell, one of the ways that you can tell what an elephant is thinking. So that's one of the main things that we do as safari guides, is we are constantly watching the body language of the animals, because they are telling us how they're feeling. So if, for example, she were to come and stand very still with her tail out and her ears out and her head up, then I'd know that she was upset with me being here. And that's very important, because then I know to move away. Then I know to give her more space. But because her tail is down and moving from side to side like that, I know she's okay. David, yes, there's an example of where you'd see the elephant with a stiff tail held away from its body. If they see a predator, elephants do chase lions often they will chase lions, and they'll chase them for quite a long time. And even a lion, as big and strong as a lion is, even a lion is scared of elephants. Lions can hunt elephants, but it's very unusual because it's really dangerous. An elephant is a massive animal, and lions have to work together as a team in order to hunt them, and they don't really do that unless they absolutely have to. Most of the time, an elephant will chase away a lion, a leopard, a cheetah. They especially don't like an animal called wild dogs. They get very cross when they see wild dogs. And you might find that a female like this, because she's all on her own, she might be more likely to chase predators because she's not as comfortable. Now, Jaden, you want to know, how do elephants protect their skin? That is a very good question, Jaden, because it gets very hot out here. And one of the ways that elephants, they don't really need to protect their skin too much because their skin is very thick and it is dark in color, so it doesn't get sunburnt or anything like that. But one of the ways that they can cool down and one of the ways that they can protect their skin is by going and having a mud bath. And they love it. Elephants love water and they love mud, and they'll use their trunks to pick up big pieces of mud and then they throw it over their backs. And sometimes they even lie down in the mud and rub themselves around in it so that it covers them from the very top of their head right down to their feet. And then they wait for the mud to dry, and then they go and they scratch up against a tree, and it's like an elephant spa treatment. So we're going to leave our lovely elephant and we're going to go and see what else we can find you. But remember, I told you all about the fact that there are different types of antelope that you can see. Well, Noelle has found one that you haven't seen yet. Let us go and find out which antelope she's got.
We have found for you an antelope species called a Niala. This is the male. He's a beautiful chocolate brown. He's got lots of mud on his horns there from rubbing them in the mud. And then white crest and white stripes, and then tawny socks. All of this coloration is meant to help it blend into the environment. But the females look very different. You can see the females on the right-hand side. They're tawny all over and much, much, much smaller than that male, with white stripes on the side, also to help camouflage and break up the body shape. They are browsers, meaning they eat leaves, and every now and then they'll also eat grass, but mostly leaves. They look very similar to the deer species that you'll find in North America and Europe and parts of Asia. Wyatt, very good question. You would like to know if antelope and gazelles are the same. Wyatt, gazelles are a type of antelope, so yes. So Niala, gazelle species like Thompson's and Grant's gazelle, as well as impala, kudu, eland, all of those, topi, all of those are all antelope species. I especially like male Niala. To me, they're very regal. Kim, very good question. There is a deer species in the western part of the United States that they've called an antelope, but it's actually a deer. So antelope have horns that grow once in a lifetime. Deer have antlers that regrow every season. The closest thing you would have in the States to an antelope would be your American bison. Bison have horns that grow once in a lifetime. It would be a type of antelope. That's beautiful there. Niala also have a very big ears so that they can hear well inside of the thick bush that they prefer. Wyatt, good question. You'd like to know if antelopes live in herds or alone. Well, Wyatt, it depends on the species. So larger species like Niala, impala, gazelle, eland, kudu, even wildebeest, they live in herd structures, but the smaller species like steenbok and duiker, klipspringer, dik-dik, they're teeny tiny and they live in pairs. So it depends on the size of the species. So when you're tiny like a dik-dik, it's easier to hide. When you're larger like Niala, it's better to have more Niala around you. Guys, you have the best questions today. Keep them coming. Logan, good question. Why do the antelope ears flap? They flap because the flies are bothering them a little bit, so that's why they're moving around like that. And then sometimes they're moving, like this female here, so that she can hear in different directions because it's a little bit windy. You can see she's smelling as well with her nose there. So antelope species don't trust their eyesight as much as they trust their hearing and sense of smell. Zaquan, very good question. You'd like to know what do book or an oryx that can go its whole life without drinking water. It can just get the moisture it needs from the plants at certain times of night. It lives in the deserts, the Namib desert areas like that, very dry areas, the Kalahari, which are to the west and north of where we are now. I'm going to see if I can find it for you in my book. So I've just got my foot on the brake so that Jean-Dre and I don't go downhill from here. And then when they're babies, they drink milk. Alexis, amazing question, sweetie. They do, in fact, some of them eat fruit. Impala will eat some fruits. Bushbuck, which is a cousin of the Niala, but much smaller, will also eat fruits as well. They will from time to time. Warthogs have hooves, but they're not antelope. But just as a side note, they also eat fruit. Now, this is a gemsbok, just here. You will sometimes find them in and around the area where I'm sitting right now, but it's not very often. They're usually in more dry, arid areas. We're dry here, but not as arid as this. And a gemsbok's about twice the size of that male impala that we saw. Very nice. Great questions, everybody. Okay, we're going to carry on from our antelope and move down and around and see about these cheeky, sneaky leopards. I can hear squirrels alarm calling behind me, but I have a feeling it's because of a bird of prey. I'm just going to turn and get us moving again. Leopards like these areas where it's very thick and they can hide themselves, but they also like open areas from time to time as well. We're just basically waiting for that female leopard Tundi to decide if she's going to go back to where we think she's put her little cub. Just giving her a little bit of space and looking for Hasana, as we spoke about earlier, a little male leopard that likes this area. And then go and have a look to see if we can find Tundi again. All right, now Brent is still up in Kenya and he's driving around, so I think let's head on up to him and see what he wants to share with all of you.
Well, guys, I've been trying to find you lions, but they just seem to be hiding at the moment. So who knows, maybe we'll get lucky in the last couple of minutes of your drive. Maybe a lion will appear. Now, there's a big pride of lions that live around this area. Well, hello, David and Zamir. David and Zamir would like to know, do antelope fight using their horns or antlers? They do fight using their horns, but remember, only deer have antlers and antelope have horns. So antelope, if he breaks his horn, it's gone forever. If a deer breaks its antler, it'll grow back the next year. Thank you very much. Archie has managed to block the sun for me because I was doing the funny squint faces. The sun just happened to be in the worst spot. But yes, so they do fight using their horns, and they will also use their horns. Certain animals like buffalo will use their horns for protection against animals like lions. Now, this is where the lions like to live, so hopefully they're around. Very windy today. Haley. Haley would like to know, do the lions hide or not? A lot. Well, they're not really hiding, they're just sleeping. Lions are very sleepy. They sleep about 20 hours a day, and they're only really active when it's cool. So later on, like now, as it gets cooler, I'm hoping the lions are going to get up and start walking. And even when they do move, for those 4 hours of movement, it's not one solid bit of movement. They might get up, walk for 20 minutes, sleep for an hour, and it also depends on how hungry they are. So I'm hoping that the lions around here are hungry and they're going to get moving a little bit earlier. So let's go see if we can find the lions. Okay, well, guys, I'm afraid I didn't manage to find a lion before the end of your drive, so you're going to have to come on another drive with us soon so we can show you the lions. But it has been great having all 3 schools on board, and hopefully we will see you again very, very soon. So bye for now, and in the meantime, for everyone still staying with us, let us go across to the highly entertaining, the highly short, that doesn't make sense, the short James Henry, to see what he is up to this afternoon.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this end of the sunrise safari, sunset safari. I do apologise for our tardy appearance today. We've had a torrid time trying to figure things out with the jigger. We still haven't figured them out, and so now I will be conducting the next 2 hours of this drive from this tree. That is incorrect. I will not be staying in this tree. My name is James Henry. Fergus is on camera. And for those of you who have just joined us post the school drive, please talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube. I've climbed this tree in order to get a better vantage point of the elephant. Now you can see the elephant. Fergus will show it to you now. I will attempt not to fall out of this tree. But I really do find myself in a very interesting position, and I would be fascinated to know how that elephant would react to me should he come wandering by and sense me here. There's quite a lot of protection offered by the tree, but of course, were he to be irritated and angry enough by my presence, he could quite easily just push it over, with me in it, of course. That would be very unpleasant. Now, those of you who have been with us for the last few weeks, which I imagine is most of you, you will know that the elephants are spending a good deal of time wandering the Sabi Sands looking for marula fruits. And it seems almost twee to say that these days. But what I was thinking about the other day was that where I used to live up north in Palabor, it used to fruit, or the marulas used to fruit around about December. And the people up there were as crazy about the marula fruits as the elephants are down here come February time. And in fact, around about Christmas, you couldn't find anybody to do a stitch of work anywhere. Half of them were gathering marulas, or say a third were gathering marulas, a third were brewing marula beer, and a third were lying in some sort of stupor as a result of the power subsequent to exiting. It's quite windy. We'll probably just wander around the immediate environs of quarantine, see if we can find some interesting flowers and things, maybe follow this elephant for a bit longer and see what else he does. There's a strong wind blowing in from the southeast, and I'm sure you can probably hear it blowing on my microphone. I apologize for that. And we're facing straight into that wind now. He's a magnificent elephant, that. I don't think he's the same one we had the other day. Okay, now I have just had a message from the final control saying that when I'm ready, we can do the
Sorry about those technical difficulties, everyone, but look what we have here. We have some buffalo We're having a little bit of a moment. I'm just going to move forward just a little bit so that we can see a little bit properly. The wind has just picked up, which is probably making them a little bit nervous, which happens. So we'll have a nice big part of the herd on our left as well as some of the herd on our right. This would have been the big herd that we saw yesterday afternoon and yesterday morning and a couple of weeks ago. It's about 200 in number. This is also the herd where we keep seeing the tiny little babies. And then I've just seen now at least 3 or 4 females that are pregnant. So we'll be getting some more babies. And let's hope that they stick around our side for a little bit longer so we can see buffalo more often. Now, I think that we're starting to see a lot more buffalo because of the rain distribution. So we talk about the rain from time to time. We talk about the buildup, and it comes over us, and sometimes it drops on us, and sometimes it carries on. So there's definitely rain in the area that falls. It doesn't always hit Juma, but in the past week or so, it's hit Juma more than it's hit anywhere else, so the buffalo have come down. Now, Kristen, sorry I'm having a little bit of trouble with my comms, but I do believe you were asking, is there a main male in the herd that does most of the mating? Kristen, there are several males in this herd. Actually, in a herd this large, there's going to be a huge amount of males, and all of them will participate in mating. There's not one dominant male. Can we hear them over the wind, these buffalo? Scarlet, a buffalo can do about 50 kilometers an hour, 40 to 50 kilometers an hour. I think the top that I've caught them running is about 50, and that was them being chased by some lions, and the whole herd was running up. The whole obstinacy, as it were. I'm just going to move us up a little bit farther for a little bit different view. The light is a funny angle. It's very harsh on our western side at the moment. So I'm going to see if we can either get some on the eastern side or find just a little bit of a better spot for everybody. I mean, the herd's so large, we could keep driving up this road forever and they'd be everywhere. I think maybe just up here is going to be a good bet for everybody. Just turn the car a little bit like this, and there we are. Justin, good question. You'd like to know how often buffalo sleep. Justin, they tend to, as the sun's going down, sort of form a little circle and bed down, and then ruminate throughout the night, and then start getting moving earlier in the morning. Depends if it's very hot or very cold. I've also seen buffalo herds still moving at night, so it also depends on where they feel the safest area is and how far they've traveled for the day. Buffaloes are very water dependent. They need water twice a day. So they need to be moving in areas that take them from water hole to water hole. They don't have territories, they've got home ranges. That's a nice big male coming through the back there. David, you're sticking me in a tricky wicket. David, you're asking if I've ever eaten buffalo. David, we have places where you can obtain venison meat, venison of many different hooved animals in the country. And yes, the only thing that I haven't tried is elephant, because I don't want to eat an elephant, and rhino because I don't want to eat a rhino. I've eaten every other hooved, I've tried, I should say, every other hooved animal. And it's interesting. Jean-Andre and I were actually talking about this the other day. In where we live in South Africa, cattle and goats and that type of meat are actually very harsh and hard on the landscape. It's not as sustainable. Buffaloes, kudu, impala, wildebeest, they're all meant to be here, and so are quite sustainable when you farm them. Now, I know I'm opening up a can of worms here, and I know that there's going to be some people who maybe are not excited about this conversation, but sustainably, it's a conversation to have every now and then. This area where we live right now, we do not harvest any of these animals for meat. These animals live completely in their wild areas. We also don't do any hunting on the area that we are in right now. So they just carry on. There are other properties across South Africa who do sustainable farming of venison meat. There's a really nice bull gendre just at the corner there of the road, kind of where you're heading now. Just on the left of the road, there's two. There's a female, and then he'll pick up his head every now and then. He's a really stunning male. The older buffalo bulls are not necessarily my favorite to walk into, but I do appreciate a nice older buffalo bull. I think something about a huge set of horns, and he doesn't really want to show himself, and the size of that boss is just, it's appealing as well as photographically appealing. But the one I want to show you, his back end is coming out more so than his front end, so we'll just have to wait a little while. Now I heard a little baby just calling now, so I'm assuming that we might get a view of one of the cute little youngsters. And hopefully eventually this herd will make it down to Chitwa Dam to have a drink. We're actually not far from there. Torsi, you want to know if buffalo are aggressive? They can be. Look, anything can be aggressive. Niala can be aggressive. I have a friend that got horned in the side by a Niala because he cornered him by accident. He came out the house and there was a Niala in the garden, and there's a little corner fence there, and he walked around and he didn't notice him, and the Niala charged him. So anything can be dangerous. What happens with things like these buffalo is the older males, when they leave the herd, they tend to be on their own, sometimes with another male, and they're grumpy. They've got little larvae that are burrowing into their horns. They are losing their skin. They're just grumpy old men. And so if you end up putting them in a scenario where they feel annoyed by it, they just come, and they tend not to stop. But a big herd like this, I could step out of the car and clap my hands and they're going to move off. Ravinda, good question. You're asking if buffalo are long-distance travelers. Ravinda, they can be, especially if the water sources that they need to access are farther apart. So if they have a big water source, say during dry season, which is our winter time here, they'll stick more in that area. But then let's say there's not enough food, enough grazing in that area, maybe they'll try another water source, and sometimes that means they have to travel farther. So they're only doing it to obtain resources. If they have enough resources in the area that they're in, they don't need to travel that far. If their resources are depleted, diminishing, or non-existent, then they'll move vast distances to obtain better resources. Oh, that one male's painting for you. Thanks, buddy. That buffalo indeed loves the camera. I once had a younger guest on my vehicle, and a buffalo was having a wee like this male is doing now, and sort of staring at us, and he's going, "What is he doing?" And I was sitting next to my then boss at the time with his own guest, and my boss, who's a male guy, turned to the little boy and said, he's painting with his paintbrush, my boy," and then sort of drove off. So every time I see buffalo doing that, I think of that story, and I laugh really hard. I mean, it's just it's just funny. I'm sorry. He's painting with his paintbrush. I mean, what other explanation could there be? Okay, I think let's go up to Jamie. I'll collect myself nicely. We'll go up to Jamie in Kenya, and then I think we're going to try and see if we can find Tundi again. If we can't find Tundi, we'll come back to our buffalo. Oh, he's a paintbrush.
Okay, so exciting plans that Noel has. We are still searching for the Olololos. I don't know where they've gone. They've been gone for a while. For our new viewers, that would have made no sense. The Olololos are a pride of lions. 4 lionesses and 13 cubs. It shouldn't be that hard to find 17 lions. It's quite a big pride. But we just haven't managed it. No one's managed it over the course of the last few days. And I've checked all of their favorite spots. I've even been down into the forest. I don't know where they've vanished to. I did go and check the crowned crane nest, by the way. I did stop off there. No one was home. No sign of the crowned cranes. And from the angle of the road, you can't really see if there's anything in that nest. So I did check. I just didn't find anything. Okay. So they're not up, or they could be up here in the long grass. I don't think so though. Dale, I think you asked about what fruits grow in both the Mara and in Djuma. We have a couple of different types of fruits. The one that's fruiting at the moment in Djuma that I'm very jealous of is the marulas. Now, a marula fruit is delectable. It is such a treat on those hot days, especially if you put it in the fridge and then you eat it. Oh, I miss it so much. I really want a marula fruit. I'm desperate for a marula fruit. So there's marula fruits, figs, prickly pears, I'm talking nonsense, white berries, guaris have fruits, jackalberries have fruits. There are lots of different fruiting trees and fruiting plants. There's some that are part of the tomato family, poison apple. Would that count as a fruit? I think so. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm going to carry on. There's loads of fruits, by the way. I'm going to carry on looking for our lions. Let's go across to James, who, if I've heard Faith correctly, has found an animal that I've just said really, really enjoys a good fruit.
Right, we are back again. I'm sorry about the last time you lost us. We ran out of batteries in one of our sort of appliances and we had to fix that. Anyway, we are still following our elephant bull here and trying to decide whether or not he can see us. And I think that he can, and I think that he just doesn't care. The wind is blowing perfectly from the southeast, and so there's no problem there. And apparently you've been chatting about what fruits there, and I've mentioned, of course, probably, I don't know, I've come out here so often and seen these elephants eating marulas. We've talked about it a lot. The marulas are fruiting here. They're the only things that are ripe at the moment. The guari bushes are threatening to ripen, but I think rather like last year because of the lack of rain, I don't think they're going to. They've just formed these sort of hard green berries that don't look like they're going to ripen. The white berry bushes are all finished. I haven't seen any sour plums. I think they're all finished as well. So it's basically only the marulas that are left as a fruiting substance out here. Alrighty, I think we're going to do what was known as an unscheduled broadcast with this elephant. So I'm going to shut up now and, I'll start speaking again when we are live with our new audience. Until then, enjoy the sight and the silence. Good afternoon to all of our new viewers. We are standing here in the Sabi Sands of South Africa, part of the 8.5 million acre Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, of which the Kruger National Park is the most enormous piece. My name is James Henry, and over there we've got an elephant bull eating marulas. Please ask any questions you'd like to during the course of our little broadcast. We're just going to see what this elephant bull does. At the moment he seems to be completely either unfazed or unaware of our presence. I don't think he's unaware of us. I think he knows that we're here. What we're going to do is have a little walk around here and see if we can't get another angle of him. The thing with walking at elephant bulls like this is you want to keep enough space that should he in some way become irritated, you've got enough space to get away from him, and also you want to make sure that he doesn't pick up your smell. Tricia, you say beautiful. It is beautiful, Tricia, and I have to tell you, it's a bit of a profound experience spending time with elephants like this on foot. And what we're just going to do, I'm going to walk a little bit closer to you so that you can come with me as we try and sneak slightly closer to the elephant. And the idea here is just to observe him, and I suppose when we are in the open like this, I mean, quite obviously if he has sight anything like as good as ours, and it's my opinion that they do have sight round about as good as ours, quite obviously we're not hiding from him. He will be able to see us. And so what we're doing here is trying to see exactly where the boundary is between him and us, and where it becomes uncomfortable for him or for us to be, because it's a difficult thing to gauge out here, and it's one of the ways that really gives us a nice understanding of the wilderness. Ian, you're wondering about his tusk length and how big his tusks will get. I'd say that's a 35-year-old elephant bull, and so I don't think his tusks are going to get much bigger. I think they're probably going to remain around about that size. He's never going to be what we call a big tusker. And Jay, you say, is he alone in this area? Well, he's alone in this particular area now, yes. And he's alone by design, because he is, of course, a bull. And the bulls like to spend all their time alone. But that's not to say there won't be herds around here. There could easily be herds in the thickets off to the south, west and east of where I'm standing now. They too will be looking for marula fruits largely, and he might be tracking or just sort of staying on the far fringes of the herd and remaining in audio contact, so he'll be able to hear the rumblings and chattings to each other as they carry on with their lives. Now he did something very interesting as I was talking there. He turned very slightly to us, and he lifted his one leg off the ground and just sort of hung it there for a while, and then he turned it back again. Now that's often an indication that they're feeling slightly uncomfortable or they're aware of something unusual. Michelle, you say, what would I do if he charged me right now? The first thing I would do is to throw the stick up in the air, and then I would run as fast as I could. No, I wouldn't do that. You'd have to assess what was going to happen. If this elephant really decided to give a serious charge from that distance, I like to think that we could probably get away from him. We could get into a thicket and disappear. That's why we're staying at this distance. I'm actually about, I'd say 80 to 100 meters from him. So that's a good 325 feet or so. And I think we could probably escape from him. No elephant that I'm aware of, having been aware of us as he is now, would just turn around and start charging. He may well turn around and lift his head up as if to say, you need to get out of here, in which case we'd listen straight away and we'd back off slowly, sort of wind our way through the trees and disappear from his view. But the chances of him actually turning around and just from his current relaxed state into a full charge, highly unlikely. Alrighty, if you've enjoyed this little broadcast, we are going to say goodbye to you. We have Noelle out this afternoon as well. She's with some buffalo. We've got 2 people up in the Maasai Mara looking at interesting things, so you can just Google Safari Live or go to our YouTube feed and watch the rest of the show. For those of you watching on this unscheduled broadcast, we'll hopefully see you again very soon. Alrighty, I'm just going to go up to this tree, everybody. He's being so very confiding with us, this elephant, but you know, these things can change quite rapidly. And we don't want to have a situation where he becomes irritated enough either to leave his marula meal or tell us to leave him alone. So I think this is as close as I will get, not being a daredevil. I must say, it's much easier looking at them when you're in a clearing like this, when you can see what's going on. You have to keep reminding yourself, of course, to look from side to side, because there could be herds of elephant coming this way, or other bulls. But it's much easier viewing elephants in this kind of environment than it is in the big thickets down by the rivers, which is what happens, of course, most of the time. Now, Noriko, you're wondering how fast an elephant can run. Well, probably at about 45 to 50 kilometers an hour. I suppose a really, really fast one might get up to 55 or so. Very difficult to measure. That's sort of between let's say 30 and 45 miles an hour, and you want to know if a bull can run faster than a cow. Noriko, I would say they can probably run at roughly the same speed. A bull's got longer legs, in fact, proportionately much longer legs, but of course he's much heavier. But a man is much heavier than a woman. So I would say probably a bull can run slightly faster than a cow. They always say that a lioness can run faster than a male lion, and I'm not convinced that that's true at all. You know, they always have... The different species compensate for the extra mass with extra muscle, and of course in the case of males, extra testosterone. And I think if you were to look at hyenas, for example, it's quite interesting, where the females have got more testosterone, they're bigger than the males, I think you'd find that they were much faster than the males. All right, I missed exactly who we're going to be linking to. I think we're going to go back to the Mara, to some sleepy lions, with either Jamie or Brent. I'm going to guess and say Brent.
Yes, indeed. Well, we've got some fat, flat cats. And remember, this is 100% live. And I'm afraid I was hoping that these lions were going to be getting up and getting moving as it got a bit cooler. But with that heavy panting you're seeing there, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be snooze, snooze, and some more snoozing for the Olololo Pride this evening. Hopefully they'll be a bit more active tomorrow morning. But for now, I'm afraid it's tired kitties. And you can see they've been sleeping here for quite a while. And how flat the grass is around there. And there's some more in the shade. Now, I was hoping to find them up in a tree today, but unfortunately I think the wind would have kept them cool enough that they decided there was no need to climb the shepherd's trees today. Oh, there we go. That's about the most movement you're going to see. That was a little leg stretch there by the looks of things. It's difficult to see even what part of a lion you're looking at in that grass. It's so thick. Ben 10 would like to know, can a constrictor eat a sleeping lion? Well, when you're talking about a constrictor, I assume you're speaking about a python. Pythons will eat lion cubs quite regularly, but an adult lion is too big for even the biggest python out here. It would come short. Now, one animal that hunts python quite regularly is the leopard. I've seen leopards catch pythons of over 4 meters before. So very, very interesting. But yes, pythons are a threat to cubs of all the big cats, in particular lion and leopard. When they use rocky dens, they will often actually in certain areas lose their cubs to the snake. There you go, you can see the shadow of the shepherd's tree. And I think we're going to move on. As I say, these lions are going to be flat cats for the rest of the afternoon. But at least I got to see a cat today. I didn't see any this morning. And I just heard from Jeffrey from Ngama that where Archie and I turned off the border today and went up towards the picnic trees, if I hadn't have turned and I had taken a different road to come home, the cheetah brothers would have been found. But apparently they did head towards Tanzania. So who knows? Maybe I'll go down there again tomorrow. I'm going to have to think about it, because it is quite a risk, because there's not much else happening down there near the border at the moment. But it is always wonderful to see those cheetah brothers, and they are quite unique, and they're uniquely battered and scarred, which is quite cool. Old boys. So there used to be 3 of them. There are now only 2. The third one was killed by lions, but about 2 years ago. Oh, I nearly forgot about the tracking earlier. We had to do the school drive, of course. So let's see if anyone has managed to get the track correct. Ben 10, you seem to like your reptiles. It is not a lizard, however, it is a mammal. Ah, coast spider. He says it's a mongoose. You are correct. But now I want to know which mongoose. Can't just say mongoose. We've got lots of different types of mongoose out here. Now, what have we got up ahead there? Ah, no, false alarm. The wind is dying down slightly, however, not as much as I would like. Kristen is wondering, is this time of the year in the Mara considered low tourist season? Yes, it is, Kristen. It is low season. There are still a huge amount of animals in the Mara, even during the low season. And high season is generally around when the wildly beasts arrive from Tanzania. That is considered high season. So from June, July, August, September is high season. Now, I just said earlier on today that my leopard luck in the triangle is absolutely bloody horrible, because Jamie has found yet another triangle leopard.
Have I found another triangle leopard? That would be quite lovely. Is this a moment where it runs across in front of our shot, Adrian? Like we did at the Hammerkorp nest? Right about and now. No? Just maybe the timing's off. He's busy with maybe yes, of course. I understand that Brent has of course misheard what Faith said I was with. I'm so sorry to disappoint you. Maybe the leopard's still busy doing its makeup. Okay, and now. It's not how this works, is it? No. It would have been. I mean, of course it would have been impossible, but imagine if that had happened. Imagine if a leopard had come trotting out of the long grass as we said that. It would have been magic. I would have been able to tell you absolutely anything in the future and you'd believe me. It would have just been so very appropriate. Unfortunately, there are no leopards. Well, I'm sure there's a leopard here somewhere, but there's no leopard here. And I feel like a right silly twit because I didn't realize that Brent was with the Olololos. So I went driving along and I saw all the vehicles and I said to Adrian, "Oh, we found them, yay!" Oh, Brent's there, never mind. Okay. So after all that, having told you that we were looking for the Olololos, I didn't know Brent had them. So we're both making mistakes today. Hold on a sec, I'm just going to pull off the road quickly. For I am blocking the passage of another vehicle. And then I will... Oh, there we go. And there's actually some zebra further up the hill as well. It's really quite lovely in this afternoon dusty light. So Mike is wondering if these are the zebra that come and eat outside our tent. Hi, how are you doing? Hi, Jeff. Yes, they could quite possibly be. So there are loads of zebra that live up at the top near our campsite, and often the zebra will come down to the plains during the day and then move back up around the campsite at night. So these zebra are busy on their journey up the hill towards our camp. So yes, they feed outside our tents. They haven't been for a little while, have they, Faith? Adrian, have you seen zebra in our camp recently? No, I haven't seen them for a while. No, actually that's a good point. Faith says that they haven't been around since the Olololos killed one right outside our kitchen. I suppose traumatic memories associated with the place. Oh, kicking each other. Kicking and biting. Alan, Yes, there are road maps for the Mara. You are able to purchase a road map of the Mara at any one of the entrance gates, and none of the roads really have names except for the main ones. And there are also lots of little 2 tracks and mysterious... Hey, how are you doing? No problem, don't worry. The dust is even lovelier, it's making the scene even lovelier, so no stress. What was I talking about? Oh yes, road maps. So none of the roads have names, and a lot of the 2 tracks run... There's a rough idea on the map, and the rest of it you sort of have to guess yourself. And the funny thing about that has been my experience with learning directions here. Nobody ever really, when the other guides are giving you directions to a sighting, they never really say things, they don't term things the way that we do when we describe where something is. And often it's very close, it's right there. You know the big tree? Yes, I think I know the big tree you mean. Go to the big tree and it's very close. 5 kilometers later, you eventually manage to find what it was that they were talking about. So there are road maps, and you never get... My favorite way of describing this is that you never get lost on a macro level. You always know roughly where you are. There's lots of hills and landmarks that you can refer to, but you do get lost on a micro level. Find yourself on a road that doesn't go where you want it to, or you're in a valley and you can't remember if this is the right valley or the wrong valley because all the valleys look the same. And it's even worse at night. Trying to figure out where you are in the pitch dark when you can't see the ridges and you have to look for the masts, the various lights dotted around the Mara. Serena's great though. Serena really helps because it's sort of central and on top of a hill. You can always use it to roughly orientate yourself. We've certainly gone off the beaten track a few times. And there are certain areas that we are allowed to off-road on, like the one that we are at here. What? That was not good English. The area that we're in at the moment is a place that we are allowed to off-road. Where Brent was with those lions, we are not. Okay, leopard. Come on. Out you come. You're hiding. Okay, so we're going to go and search for the fabled leopard. Let's go across to Brent, who has found a pangolin and an aardvark enjoying a tryst.
I swear I heard leopard in my ear, guys. I'm telling you, I did not hear zebra. Zebra and leopard don't even remotely sound the same. Maybe I just got leopards on the brain at the moment, which is one of the reasons I'm coming to this area as it's getting a bit cooler. I want to go pop my head over and look on the edge of the forest here. But no, I did not find a pangolin and aardvark. Thank you, Jamie. Oh, we've got some more answers for the mystery mongoose track. Austin and Rocky getting closer with banded mongoose. However, it's a bit bigger than banded mongoose, and it's a nocturnal mongoose, not a diurnal mongoose. Michelle Morningstar says Indian grey mongoose. I'm afraid not, Michelle. The Indian grey mongoose, as the name sort of hints, lives in India. But we do get 2 species of grey mongoose in Kenya, the large and the small grey mongoose. So there we go. We're on the edge of the forest. I just want to have a quick perusal. All I see is a giraffe. Well done to Project Alpha, Dale and Debbie. You guys have got it correct. It was indeed a marsh mongoose. You spot the giraffe there, Arch? So zoom. It's hiding right in the middle of that clearing, behind a tree there. Keep going. Where'd it go? There it is. And see the giraffe. A little bit lower. There it is. Well, it's not a leopard, but it's named after a leopard. Well, a scientific name at least. It's got spots. That's something. Okay. No, unluckily no leopards here for now, so I'm going to keep moving up a little bit higher and then look back down into the forest again. And it is the spot where we have seen leopard quite regularly. Well, Jamie's seen leopard quite regularly. I've only ever seen the big male up in camp on the airstrip once or twice. I have seen the Majia Chafu female quite a few times down near the Mara Bridge. Maybe that's where I'll go tomorrow, to the Mara Bridge. I haven't been down there for ages as well. Sid wants to know, what are the poisonous plants you get in the Mara? Oh my goodness. Look at that. Is it going to escape before we can get it? Look at that. Oh, it's gone. It was a completely mud-caked terrapin. I mean, it looked like a mobile rock for a second. Sid was wondering about poisonous plants in the Mara. Well, Sid, the balanites trees that dot all around us are quite noxious. The oil that's inside the actual nut, it can be quite noxious. You can use it to poison fish if you're hungry, if it's in a non-flowing system, if it's in a static pool. And the euphorbias are also quite noxious. But apart from that, there's lots of stinging nettles in certain parts of the Mara. But I'm not too familiar with the noxious plant species in the Mara. I'm pretty sure a lot of them would be quite similar to the other similar noxious plants throughout the African savannas. Okay, I'm going to send you across to Jamie, who's going to bid you adieu from the Mara.
It's just such a beautiful evening. Everything's so golden. All the dust that's in the air has really added to the atmospheric nature of this afternoon. It's beautiful. I'm actually sitting trying to work out exactly what it was that was screeching in the forest a moment ago. I think it's those monkeys. I think it's those blue monkeys. It doesn't sound like anything else I've heard. It does sound like a monkey. Unfortunately, the wind, I think, is still too strong for us to be able to show it to you. I can't hear it anymore now anyway. Rishi, no. Well, yes. Okay. Let me qualify what I was about to say. Rishi's question is, do the number of animals decrease during the off-season or the quiet season? Yes, because the migration's not in town, and there's no way that I could possibly try to tell you that there are no fewer animals, since about 2 million of them all head back towards Tanzania. So it would be a stretch of the imagination for me to say to you that there are not less animals during the quiet season, but there is still a vast amount to see, is actually what I was going to say. Of course, the lions and the leopards are territorial. They don't go anywhere. You've got all of the licking topi action and the baby Tommies dashing about. There is plenty to see. You just don't necessarily see all of the zebra and the wildebeest and the Tommies of the migration. So there's lots to see, and there's lots of reasons to visit the Mara during the off-season. If I were you, if you were able to come on safari, I would come around about now. In the grass, or possibly a little bit earlier when the grass is still quite short. It's quiet, there's not nearly as many people. You don't see the migration, but you do see plenty of other things. And in fact, you probably notice more because you're not distracted by a couple of 100,000 wildebeest braying everywhere. And you stop and have a chance to look at things like buffalo and the other creatures. Okay, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure sharing this time with you. It is the end portion of the Sunset Safari from the Mara team, but the safari will continue with the crew across in South Africa. For those of you that have joined us on some of the other social media platforms, we'll be saying goodbye to you. But remember, if you Google Safari Live, you'll be able to continue to watch for at least